Barnes was diagnosed with idiopathic thrombocytopenia purpura, and he actually ended up going through this whole slew of medical issues and spent a lot of time in the hospital. And at the end of his journey, he ended up passing away, but his family, specifically his mom and dad, wanted to do something to honor the nurses that took such great care of him. And they said, we expect that the nurses were going to take really great care of him, but what we didn't expect is how they went above and beyond. And so what they did is they developed the DAISY Foundation, which stands for Diseases Attacking the Immune System. And they put together this award to recognize nurses that are extraordinary, that go above and beyond. And so at the university, every month we honor one of our own nurses with the DAISY Award. And there are several gifts that you'll get out of this, and we'll read the nomination and talk about you. But this is a really great honor, and so happy to have you as a DAISY nurse in our organization. So thank you very much. Congratulations.
A little bit about Joe. He started with us back in October of 2016, hasn't been with us very long, came from St. Luke's. He took a position in the PZD last summer when we started to be a formal group in that area and quickly found a passion. He's gotten several kudos and accolades from staff members, from families, and from patients alike. So very delighted that the DAISY Award is next on your list here.
Okay.
Yay!
I'll let you read first. This is my cousin Heidi. She is the original nominator, and she cries, and so do I.
So when I wrote this, my grandson was only 5 months old. He's 8 months old now, and he has Joubert syndrome. So on behalf of my grandson, Kamai Taylor, who actually is on his way up here for an emergency appointment because he's running a fever this morning, so he won't be able to attend. He was trying to make it. I apologize. And his mom, my daughter, Raven Taylor, I'd like to nominate Joe from the University of Iowa Emergency Department as a deserving recipient of the DAISY Award. His extraordinary compassion and clinical skills exemplify the kind of nurse that patients, their families, and others should recognize as a role model. At the time I wrote this, Kamai was barely 5 months old, but he has spent a large portion of his life in the hospital. To say this creates stress is putting it lightly. As a grandmother, I am filled with much awe when I see how great of a mother my daughter Raven is to Kamai. However, there's always an underlying worry that people will judge her because she is very young, and also a single parent to a beautiful miracle who has many needs, such as a tracheostomy, a vent, a feeding tube, and he's recently got diagnosed as being blind. And that's just to name a few. On January 9th, February 6th, and February 27th, Kamai needed emergency care at the University of Iowa. We met Joe on January 9th. He introduced himself to us as Kamai's nurse. Right away, he took a different approach towards Raven and Kamai. He listened to Raven, and I can see by his face that he was impressed by how knowledgeable and skilled Raven is as a mother regarding all of Kamai's healthcare needs. When able, Joe allowed Raven to be involved in certain aspects of Kamai's care, and he also advocated for Raven with other healthcare providers, and I can see that this made a difference in my daughter's demeanor because she began to relax. Joe took his time and explained to us about labs, tests, plans. February 6th, he found us back at the emergency room again, and we were lucky to have Joe as our nurse again. Joe remembered our little man as well as our names, and his care was once again genuine, and we knew that we were in good hands. February 27th, we were back at the hospital again. Kamai had developed wounds around his trach area due to a recent change in trach ties because of his insurance. As we traveled to Iowa City, and while waiting in the emergency department, Raven was worried that people would think she wasn't taking very good care of Kamai. She kept saying, "I don't know how this happened, Mom. I do all of his cares. I don't know how this happened." Then Joe came to the emergency department waiting room to get us and all of Kamai's 100 pounds of equipment. In that moment, Raven saw Joe. I saw her face relax, knowing she wouldn't be misjudged or questioned. And that in turn allowed me to relax as her mother and Kamai's grandmother. Kamai even responded to Joe's voice, and Joe provided exceptional care and compassion. While we encountered many helpful people, Joe stands out because he doesn't judge based on appearance. He provides exceptional care, and he always has encouraging words for Raven. At the end of March, we found ourselves back at the emergency department. That's not in this letter because it was after this was wrote. I wasn't able to attend because I had to work early in the morning. So when I called up to check on Raven, the first thing I said is, Joe working? And she said yes, and I was able to go to sleep so I could get up for work in the morning because I knew that everything would be taken care of. Joe has no idea the difference that he makes in our lives. It's because of him that we're able to fully focus on Kamai during all of his recent emergency room visits. And from a mother and grandmother to Joe, I just want to thank you for your care, respect, and compassion that you show my family.
Okay, so.
Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry. Got excited for the gifts.
All right, so I sent this to Joe after Heidi submitted her nomination. And so, Joe, I want to take a moment and personally thank you for the care and advocacy you have provided to patient Kamai. However, I'm not doing this solely as a peer. I'm doing this as a family member. Your care has been wonderful from the start, even before you knew that I was related. Until now, other than you, who I've only shared this with so that you would know why I was in the room after my shift ended, no one knew that I am related to this little miracle. Kamai has many medical comorbidities, and he was born 9/16 of 17, and before he was a month old, he required 11 minutes of CPR while at home. Thanks to a neighbor, Kamai is still with us today. I was working the day that he was brought in by EMS, and it was the hardest day that I had to stay in my professional role. And it's people like you that made that able. While he was hospitalized, his mom, Raven, endured many conversations during her time from many well-meaning people. And she began to question if she was the mom that Kamai needed. However, through the support of her mom, Raven stood her ground, and during his long hospitalization, she and her mom learned CPR and first aid. They learned to provide all of his cares, and before he was released, they were providing all of his cares with the supervision of nurses and RTs. Despite all of this, she has faced some still uphill battles because some people can sometimes assume that she doesn't know how to care for Kamai. Kamai wasn't home 7 days before he needed to return to the ED for his care. And of course, this caused stress for Kamai, Raven, and Heidi. However, that was the day, January 9th was the day that they met you. And from that day forward, they will only come to the UIHC unless his needs require urgent care locally. Raven knows that you are aware of the kind of parent she is and hopes and prays that Joe is working anytime that they need to come here. We laugh at one of her recent visits when he developed a skin breakdown due to his recent change in trach ties. And I say laugh because Raven was so focused on getting Kamai here that she forgot to comb her hair before she got here. And I walked out to the ED and looked at her, and she said, "I'm a hot mess. My hair is standing on end. They're gonna think I'm the world's worst mother." So I knew what I needed to do. I went to the Peds Annex and I said, "Look, I'm not trying for special treatment or requesting special treatment from you, but guess who has just checked in?" And you immediately knew who I was talking about. And again, I stress that I wasn't asking you to be their nurse or to provide special favors, but I did want you to advocate for her with whomever it was assigned to her. And it so happened that you were up next for a patient. Heidi messaged me later to let me know how amazing you were and wanted to know how they could recognize you. And I suggested the Daisy Award. And they were all too happy to nominate you. At that time, I mentioned that I wanted to complete the nomination process and that I wanted to send an email separate of that. Heidi and Raven are aware of this email and of the words that it contains. And a special message to just say thank you for being able to illustrate how caring, non-judging, and wonderful you have been with them. They know when they see you that you will advocate for them. I have nothing but wonderful things to say about everyone that they encounter through the ED. However, they always sing your praises. You are the perfect example of the care that should be provided to everyone who enters our ED, regardless of who they are and regardless of who they are related to. Thank you.
Okay. So you get several different things. First, so Patrick Barnes's one of his favorite things to eat while he was in the hospital was Cinnabons, and we don't have a local Cinnabon, but we do have Hy-Vee, and they make amazing cinnamon rolls. So you get cinnamon rolls to share with your team. You also get your bouquet of daisies. There's also your certificate for the Daisy Award. You also get a copy of the nomination with a pin that you can wear on your badge so that everybody knows that you are a Daisy Nurse recipient. And then last but not least, which is my favorite part of the gifts, is a sculpture that is handmade in Zimbabwe, and it's called the Healer's Touch. And so all of the sculptures are just a little bit different because they're all handmade, and the proceeds that this town receives, goes to help them and their daily living. So that's for you as well. And now we'll get a ton of pictures with you and your entire team. Congratulations.
Thank you.